Today, New York City is requiring retailers to check for shoppers' proof of vaccine. Wegmans is announcing their first New York City store, and Mezzenga of Omni Talk is going to join us. We're talking about Square acquiring Afterpay. I was thinking we should just spread that interview across 4 interest-free installments. All that and more right now on everything we know about retail. Hi, my name is James Cook, coming to you from Indiana. Ebere Anokute is in New York. Hello, Ebere.
Hello, James.
Guys, this is everything we know about retail. This is the show where we tell all of you everything we know about retail, 3 things at a time. I don't want to dilly-dally. I want to get into it. So, Ebere, what do you know about retail?
All right, James. Here is the first thing that we know about retail. So, James, I don't know about you, whether you've had a chance to go back to dine in restaurants. Have you had a chance? Yeah? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have. And, with the new Delta variant, it's been kind of now I'm a little iffy again.
I feel that. So I know myself as well. Once the restriction was lifted on May 19th, I was one of the first people to go back to dining in the city. However, it appears that I'm not the only person like you who felt a little bit hesitant about that because de Blasio announced this week that New York is going to require proof of vaccine in order to enter some indoor venues, right? So this means dining indoors at restaurants. This means gyms and fitness centers, as well as entertainment venues like movie theaters and Broadway when it opens back up later on. So definitely a big move, right? This makes New York the first major U.S. city to make this move. So starting August 16th is when the program will begin, and it won't be enforced actually until September 13th. So thankfully, they're giving a little bit of a 6-week grace period to transition into this. So before they start to dole out some penalties for retailers that aren't enforcing this correctly. So every patron who comes up to one of these establishments will have to show proof of vaccine, of being vaccinated, either through the new Excelsior app, which they're going to launch in the next couple of weeks. I don't know
Great
if you know
name.
It is a great name.
Great name.
Excelsior is actually, I think it's the motto of New York State or something, like it's one of those things. It means like Latin for ever upward. That's something they taught us way back in like 3rd grade. So funny that it's coming full circle now, that word. But you'll have to either show that on the app or show your paper vaccine card. So obviously you mentioned this is all in response to the Delta variant causing COVID cases to surge across the country. Most recently, we saw there were 86,000 new cases per day, which is definitely an increase from January of this year, where we were seeing around 13,000 cases per day. Obviously important to note that because of the vaccine and just, some advances we made in I guess, research and medicine in this time, the hospitalizations and deaths are way down, but new cases are still rising. So it makes sense that de Blasio would want to get ahead of that and do what he can to curb it. So right now in New York, around 66% of adults are fully vaccinated. And I have this graphic to show right here. So this is from the New York City Health Department's website. And you can see that for at least one dose, 72% of the population has received it. But for fully vaccinated people, we're at 66%, which is not bad. I believe that puts us, maybe in the top 10 of states throughout the US, but obviously it could be better. And when you think back to, around this time last year, when New York was the epicenter of the COVID outbreak in the entire United States, it's very, very logical that de Blasio would be doing his part to, curb that. And I think it's also a nice move to take this route as opposed to shutting down businesses again, right? Which is what we had to do last year in an effort to curb the virus. So it's a very, polarizing move for some people, although we're not the first people to do it. France and Italy also made similar measures or instituted a similar vaccine mandate, and the response was mixed, right? Some people were happy about it, and there was a definite uptick in appointments being scheduled for vaccinations, but there also were some protests for people feeling like they're being forced into it and things like that. So again, we're the first major US city. I don't know if Indianapolis, James, is gonna come through with one anytime soon. What do you think?
No.
Not at all, no.
No, I feel like New York City is probably a place where the majority of the people are going to be behind this, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so too. Yeah,
yeah,
that's the vibe I've gotten.
yeah. So, question, retailer perspective.
Hmm.
Do you know anything about? I know retailers are going to be fined if they don't do this.
Hmm.
Does that mean if I say operate a bodega in New York, do I have to station somebody at the door now to check for ID? Like, does every
Yeah.
store have a bouncer
A
now?
bouncer, imagine. I mean, that's a good question, and I think there's still a lot to be fleshed out about the idea, right? I think De Blasio announced it as soon as he could, and he even said that there was some more details to be worked out. But to my understanding, it's only for retail locations where you're going to spend a significant amount of time, right? Ideally, or in theory, places where you'll actually sit down, you know? So that's why it's the movie theaters and the restaurants and things like that. I don't think that grocery stores and other locations like that will be affected by this mandate. I still think that they have the ability to decide for themselves whether they want to require masks indoors or if they don't, if they want to follow the CDC guidance. That's still kind of, up to them. But I believe this is only for, places where we go inside, sit down, and spend a significant amount of time. But like I said, I think it's a great idea because it's better than shutting everything down again like we did last year. And I think that's better for the retailers as well. We saw what happened with a lot of the restaurants last year when things shut down. A lot of them went out of business and won't be able to come back, unfortunately. So this seems like a good measure. Overall, I'm in support of this. I'm in support of vaccines. I'm someone who believes in science, so I definitely think that it's a good idea. And what's also important to note about this is that when it comes to restaurants, patrons are still able to dine outdoors without and showing any proof of vaccination. So it really isn't discriminating against anyone in any way. It's just sort of trying to give that last push so we can get the last 30% or so of the population in New York City vaccinated. So good job, de Blasio. I think it's a great move. And yeah, hopefully it'll be popular. So
Yeah, everything we know about retail does not make political stands, but we are always on the side of following the best scientific evidence. And
absolutely.
so there we go. Hot
Absolutely.
take.
So yeah, a little bit of hot take, but we're waking up early. We're starting early on a Thursday. So James, why don't you tell me what else do you know about retail?
All right. Well, now it's time for something completely different with the second thing that we know about retail. And the second thing we know is our guest today. Welcome. Our guest is Anne Mezzenga, and you're the co-founder of Omni.
Yes, thanks for having me, you guys. I came in on a good day, I think. It'll be
Yeah.
fun.
Welcome.
Yeah, we started with probably the heaviest story, so you're in it for the fun now.
I'll bring the party now. We can
Right.
talk about
There you go.
not post-vaccine, what we're all going to be doing.
Right.
Real bouncers that we're hopefully going to be encountering going into clubs. It'll be so
I like
great.
that.
I go to the clubs all the time.
I was gonna say, when was the last time I was in a club? It's been a while.
Been a little
I know.
while,
I
yeah.
have 2 kids. I'm at baseball all the time. That's my life. So
Right.
I miss those club days.
Yeah.
So, Anne, I've got a topic I want to get your take on, but before we do that, let the viewers know Omni Talk. I know it's a blog and a show and a podcast. It's like all media, right?
Yeah, so OmniTalk, we started, my co-founder Chris Walton and I, after working at Target building their Store of the Future concept. We felt like there was, kind of a gap in the market about talking about where the future of retail is headed from the perspective of people who actually had been retailers and could give our perspective on, how you incorporate new technologies, some of the things we'll talk about today, but like what that means to actually bring into operationally a retail environment. So that's us. We're at omnitalk.blog, and James, we've been partnering on content for a long time. We love your show and the work that you guys are doing. So
Yeah, if you're an audience of this, you will love Omni Talk and vice versa.
Yes,
so that's why I'm always trying to do crossover stuff, because I think we can only help each other.
Yeah, for sure.
And we do have a different point of view because, Ebere and I work for JLL, which is commercial real estate. So we're in the retail real estate world. You're in the retailer world. So, Anne, I want to ask you about this Afterpay Square merger. And I want to admit something. I didn't really know what Afterpay was until like this week when the news came out. Tell us, for those who don't know, what Afterpay is.
Yeah, so Afterpay, and you'll see BNPL, which stands for Buy Now, Pay Later. There's a lot of these providers that are coming out. Affirm, Apple is planning on releasing their own version of one of these platforms. Shopify, they have Shop Pay that they just came out with. That's one of these platforms. So you're going to start seeing these installment financing programs coming out like much more, I think, especially if, the last couple of weeks have been any indication. And the idea behind these is that instead of paying for something with a credit card, especially for online purchases, when you go to checkout, you'll start seeing these more at Target and Walmart and some of these bigger ticket items, especially, where you can break your payments into 4 interest-free installments. So the first payment is due at the time of purchase. 2 weeks later, another payment is due. 2 weeks later, 2 weeks later. And the way that it works is that instead of, you building up billions of dollars that the country is in credit card debt, especially this next generation, the millennials and Gen Z, who make up 75% of the buy now, pay later population, they can just do installment payments to try to eliminate credit card debt. And it's really been great for the retailers because they're seeing a lot of increase in purchase behavior because of this installment financing option. So Square is obviously a big part of this. And Afterpay is a startup out of Australia. Two neighbors. It's a great story. Their backstory is really incredible. But Klarna is another one you might recognize, a firm we mentioned. And so I think it's something that we should be watching really closely, especially as we look at how this next generation is unbanked or is averting the typical credit card, racking up that debt from online purchases.
I actually have a quick question for you, and because I've heard of Afterpay as well, and Klarna. I've seen those like options at the bottom when you're checking out from like ASOS or one of those stores.
Yeah.
But I've always been curious, when you say interest free, how then does Afterpay make money, right? Because if it's interest free, then I would expect them to be getting that money from the consumer to pay for this convenience of the broken up payments. But I've always just wanted to know about that. I don't know if you know.
Great question, Ebere. No, it's actually merchant paid. So the trick and the real key here is, and we talked about this on our show last week when Affirm and Shopify, they released Shop Pay and they just are rolling it out to all Shopify vendors. So if you don't say, I don't want to be doing buy now, pay later, you have to say something before August 27th or they're automatically putting it on your site. And the important thing to note here is that some of the costs, so it's just like a credit card transaction. So if I take Visa as a merchant, they take, anywhere from 3 to 5% typically. These transactions for buy now, pay later can be upwards of 5 and 6% per transaction for the merchant. So it's a significant bump. And so I think that's something that we're going to be watching too, as we start to see, these companies merging, Square and Afterpay, Shopify and Affirm, as we're starting to see more consolidation in the space. I think it's going to be interesting to see, just like credit card companies, who's trying to like go for that lower rate, who's going to be able to offer merchants a better rate, because 6% of a sale is a pretty significant cost to the merchant. But that's how they make their money. And then also, there is a collections process if somebody was not able to make their payments too. But they haven't been seeing that as significantly. It's been pretty successful all around.
We had a comment come in from one Sonia saying, we're definitely seeing retailers use Afterpay platform at our centers. So in the physical world too, it sounds like this is popular. It's a great alternative to a credit card. I do have to say, I'm a little nervous about anything that might end up having a creditor call you, like if you default.
Right.
I'd be interested, like, what the default rate was. But what it really makes me think of, it's just like layaway, but you get the product at the beginning. Like when I was a kid, I got my dad a birthday gift one time and I couldn't afford it. So I was like, I put $20 down and came back in a couple of weeks for another $20 and they let me take it home. This is just like you get to take it home with the first 20.
Yep, exactly. And like I was saying earlier, I mean, retailers are seeing a significant uptick in revenue because this option is available. I mean, that's the number one selling point for all of these platforms as they're going out to retailers. Is I think Shopify said like in the last quarter, their merchants saw 3 times the spend for their stores than they did the previous quarter because they had implemented this Shop Pay platform. So yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of anything that doesn't put people in further debt. Also, big fan of that. We've got generations now of people carrying student loan debt, and and I'm also in favor of people avoiding payday loans. So that's another one. So this is great. So, and do you think that there will be a point where I might go to every store and this is an option, or is it already an option? I just don't notice it.
I think it's actually an option at quite a few retailers already. I think like H&M was one of the first ones to really start to roll this out, in the physical store sense outside of e-commerce. But I think, yeah, you're going to start seeing this as an option. You're already seeing, Klarna and some of these Affirm, some of these companies like starting in the app, like having you carry around your Affirm app and saying, I'm going to go here and just purchase buy now, pay later for my products in store. And I think that's a great point too, James. I mean, I think as this becomes more mainstream, and it certainly indicates by the last couple of weeks that this is going to be more mainstream, I think we're going to start to see how this takes shape in a physical sense and what that means. I mean, I think it will become as ubiquitous as Apple Pay and Samsung Pay is and Google Pay for a lot of people. So
yeah.
One last comment. Viewer in India says they have a similar option there, and it's widely used for offline purchases for electronics and apparel. So it sounds like it's a global trend.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to move on to our next topic. You're going to stick around and join us.
Sure.
We're going to hear your 2 cents. Let's find out what it is. Ebere, what else do you know about retail?
All right, let's see. Here is the third thing that we know about retail. So we all know that grocery retailers saw immense growth over the past year, right? Because when everything was shut down, all we really had to do was either order from one of these restaurants or cook stuff at home. So grocery saw a lot of growth. Online grocery in particular grew by 52% in 2020, which is, massive. So that sector totally boomed. Those grocers are some of the, only sectors as we analyze different industries that are really thriving in this sort of post-COVID, mid-COVID, whatever you want to call this environment that we're in right now. But one of those grocers, Wegmans, did really well. They got almost $11 billion in revenue in 2020, which is up from $8 billion in revenue in 2019. So they're obviously red hot right now, definitely looking towards expansion. And they actually signed a lease for their first New York City store at 770 Broadway in Greenwich Village, sort of downtown. That's actually the same building where Facebook's current headquarters is located in. They're going to be moving, I think they signed leases they have a lease at the Farley building, like the Farley post office, and also in like Hudson Yards, but they currently are in 770 Broadway. And Wegmans signed on for a 30-year lease. They're going to be leasing 82,000 square feet, which is massive. All right, that's like easily the biggest grocery store I can think of in recent.
Just to be clear, that's big for Manhattan. A Wegmans in the suburbs is like 200,000 square feet.
Oh, look at me with my blind spot. I thought that was big everywhere. I was thinking that was
city
big
boy.
Yeah, clearly. Okay, well, yeah, maybe it's not that big for everyone else, but 82,000 square feet, opening in 2023, and it's going to be their first store located in Manhattan. Right now, they have a store in Brooklyn, but this will be their first one on the island of Manhattan. And it's definitely, major. I know Wegmans is one of those grocery stores. Again, I'm based in New York City from Westchester. And so they recently opened a Wegmans in Westchester, maybe 15 minutes away from my parents' house, in Harrison, I'd say last year. And when it was opening, I had so many friends from like upstate New York or who went to school elsewhere who were like shaking at the thought of a Wegmans coming nearby, and I just didn't get the hype, honestly. Like, it's just not a grocery chain I was familiar with. I grew up going to Stop and Shop a lot and like Giant and things like that. So yeah, right. I didn't know much about Wegmans, but apparently it is, really, really popular. They have like almost a cult following because of the free samples and all the, different options that they have. So this is definitely going to be a great, addition to the grocery sort of scene in New York City. We know that, again, grocery anchored shopping centers across the country are doing really well from an investment perspective. And it's actually, this location is the site of an old Kmart, which we just heard closed maybe 3 weeks ago, mid-July. And so now Wegmans swooped right in and took that space, which I think is really cool. And actually, makes me wonder, James, and what you guys think. Do you think that grocery could be the category, because of all the growth that they've seen in the last year, that absorbs some of the, space that might be left on the market from these department stores going out of business, right? Because obviously when those department stores go out of business, again, thinking about Westchester, there's a Macy's in the Galleria nearby that just went out of business. And when I tell you I grew up at that Macy's, when I tell you every back to school shopping spree happened at that Macy's, my mom is still kind of like sad that the Macy's closed down.
Oh, no.
I wonder, do you guys think grocery can take up some of that space, or do you think it just doesn't, it wouldn't be the same fit, it wouldn't be right size? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, definitely some of that space. Yeah, I mean, we've seen, because there's just so many department stores that have closed in the past couple of years, especially with COVID, we had a slew, and a slice of those have been, carved out and are perfect for a grocery store, but not all of it, but definitely some of it. And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're starting to see this trend, especially as you look at like malls throughout the country, and malls converting from the traditional mall retailers into these like lifestyle centers, bringing a grocery store in as a tenant, healthcare in as a tenant, to replace some of these big box department stores that have gone out of business. I think this is a really smart move though for Wegmans. And what I'm actually most curious to see is how they break up the store footprint in Manhattan, because I think one of the most valuable parts of that store location, being 82,000 square feet right in the heart of the city, is how much service they can do from online grocery and curbside pickup and ship from store from that location. I've been reading about companies who are like leasing out apartments for people who will like accept packages because they are just trying to get to that density in the middle of the city. And so I think Wegmans, as you said, Ebere, they're so well known and well loved for the store experience. So that's going to have to be a really critical part of this. But I think that how they service this next generation of customer and what they're able to do in such a dense location like that will be really interesting. They certainly have the space to do it. So I think that's going to be seen if they put in some micro fulfillment in that space and how they're servicing, especially the other thing I guess I'd plug onto that is, if Facebook sticks around or the other places, like looking at how they can service that grab and go customer too. So not just the grocery purchases there, but then what kind of hot and ready food and, takeaway food can they put in place in that space?
Yeah. And that is the Wegmans difference is really the quality and level of the pre-prepared foods that they have. They're not, I'm in the Midwest, but I've been to Wegmans before and just amazed by the vast, you'll go into most grocery stores and they have just, a slice, like a little area of prepared foods, but that's just like super size. As a matter of fact, I was in the Wegmans in King of Prussia in Pennsylvania. They have an entire Irish pub inside of the Wegmans.
Sure.
And that's in addition to this huge like buffet of prepared foods, and then a huge big beer area, just amazing beer and wine selection. It's a cool store.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So guys, I think it's time to get into the retail challenge. Anne, are you ready? Are you ready for this?
I'm nervous, but I hear that Ebere is going to be a challenging competitor that you put me with, James. So
Ebere won last week. So the way it works is you get a point for every correct question. Whoever has the most points wins. Ebere, can you do me a favor and keep track of the points this week? I have more than my typical number of points because we've got a little mini game in addition. So,
okay, I got it.
We'll just get into it. First off, Bloomin' Brands. They're killing it. Bloomin' Brands, as you guys know, this is Outback, Carrabba's, Bonefish, Fleming's. They have a fast casual called Aussie Grill. Their store numbers are now beating pre-pandemic levels. Across all chains, they're more than 12% over pre-pandemic levels. So, like by any measure, Bloomin' is killing it. One of their secrets, and this is my favorite part of the story, is they did not furlough employees during COVID.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so they're not having any staffing issues right now. What they did instead, the CEO gave up his entire base salary. The board suspended their cash retainers, and they took that money and they didn't furlough anybody. And right now, every other restaurant is scrambling. And not every restaurant could afford to do this, but they're a very big company, so they were able to do it. So, in honor of Bloomin' Brand's awesome performance, we're going to play a mini game called Menu Match. These
Let's do it.
These are the Bloomin' Brands. Are you guys, just a quick check in? Are you guys familiar with at least some of these brands?
Oh yes.
Okay.
I'm familiar with Outback and Aussie Grill. I can't say I've heard of the other ones.
Okay, well, Carrabba's is Italian. Fleming's is a fancy steakhouse. Bonefish is seafood. And then you got Outback, which is the Australian-themed sit-down steakhouse, and then Aussie Grill, which is the fast casual version of Outback. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a menu item, and you're going to tell me what restaurant it's from. So, for example, if I were to say Bloomin' Onions, what would you guys say?
Outback.
Yeah. All right. So that was a gimme. You don't get a point for that one.
Oh, man.
So we're going to go back and forth. You've each got a chance to get 2 points. So, Anne, I'm going to start with you. We're going to start at the beginning of the meal with the starter. This is actually one of my favorite appetizers, Bang Bang Shrimp. So where could I get Bang Bang Shrimp, Anne?
I'm going to go with Bonefish Grill.
You are correct. Bonefish Grill. Also my parents' favorite restaurant.
Mine too. Oh my God. Do they live in Florida? Because my parents, that's how I know most of the things that are on this map here. Yes.
No, my parents live in Pennsylvania, but that's what's great about these. They're everywhere. Okay, so Ebere, we're going to move on to the next course. We're going to order some crispy sriracha chicken sandwich with a side. Where do you think this is from?
I'm gonna say Aussie Grill.
You are correct. Yeah, and I think the giveaway, it's a fast casual. The giveaway is it's on a tray. But so you've each got a point.
Let's go.
So, and back to you. We're gonna go to our entree here. We're gonna get an Alice Springs chicken. Where do you get an Alice Springs chicken from?
Oh my gosh, Outback.
You are correct. I chose one that had an Australian name in it too.
I didn't even know that was an Australian name.
It's a place in Australia. Yeah.
So, all right. Never been on the bucket list.
Okay. And finally, Ebere, for you, we're going to move on to our dessert course. Where would I get a cannoli cake for 2?
It better be Carrabba's Italian Grill.
You are correct. Carrabba's Italian Grill. It is. So after our first round, how are we with points?
It looks like we're tied 2-2, me and Anne. So we're neck and neck right now.
Awesome. Excellent. Ebere, do you remember, were you at that conference with the executive from Bloomin' Brands?
I was thinking about that as soon as you started talking, but I was like, maybe that's too much of an anecdote.
I don't want to. I'm not going to use any names here, but somebody in the crowd stood up and was talking about how Outback was like an appropriation of the Australian culture, and it's not really Australian.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just kind of like, yeah, it's not. Nobody thinks it's an Australian restaurant, do they?
I don't know, but he was passionate about that. He was like, yeah, this is not real Australian food. And just asking the guy what his thoughts were about that. And he seemed a little bit flustered, honestly, the executive from Bloomin' Brands. But yeah, it was a funny moment for sure. He rolled with it.
He's a good guy. Okay. So we're going to get into it. And you can tell these are always the retail challenge is usually around news items. So the next news item is about GoPuff. GoPuff announced they've got $1 billion in new funding. They are instant delivery, 24 hours a day. Get on your app, and for $1.95, they're going to bring you groceries, alcohol, essentials. Oddly, with a name like GoPuff, you cannot get tobacco delivered. That feels like I would have thought that's the first thing you would get from a GoPuff. But anyway, they're going to use $1 billion to further expand into markets in North America and the UK. They've already got 450 sites. So they've got a bunch of dark stores that they deliver from. They also own Bevmo, which is a liquor, beer, wine chain out west, and so they're now doing delivery from Bevmo as well. There's a huge land rush right now with all these these instant delivery guys. It kind of started in Europe. Our friends in Europe have been seeing this for a while, but now it's growing here. So I thought I'd list off a few of these instant delivery companies. One of these I made up this morning, and it's not a real instant delivery company. All the rest are real. So I'm going to ask each of you to guess which is the fictional delivery company. Your choices are Wheezy, Kaju, Glovo, Bam Bam, Zap, Gorillas, and Flink. And yes, almost all of those are real names. And you're our guest. I'll start with you. Which was the made-up delivery company?
I'm going to go with Bam Bam. I feel like I've been researching these a lot. And if I don't know that company, I'm in trouble.
Okay, and you're gonna go with Bam Bam. Ebere, you're gonna go with Bam Bam too, or you got another thought?
No, I was gonna go with Bam Bam as well. Although they all sound wild, so put Bam Bam.
There's still a lot more vowels than I'm used to seeing in most of these startup names. I have to say, no numbers involved.
Well, you guys are right, because Bam Bam is actually the name of Barney Rubble's son on the Flintstones.
That was what I was thinking at first as well.
Awesome, but that was great. You guys are pretty smart. So let's for our final question, let's go to New Jersey. The Oreo Cafe just opened up at American Dream Mall in New Jersey. It opened up on August 3rd. It's in the 3rd floor of the It's Sugar location. So their entire menu is built around Oreos. So you get Oreo, I don't know, sundaes and desserts. And then they also sell a bunch of Oreo products and merchandise. For example, the Oreo scented candle. So It's Sugar is a candy department store. They've got over 100 locations. 60% of their sales come from tourists. So, it's been tough. COVID has been tough for them. They're in bankruptcy, but they're still, they've got this awesome flagship at American Dream. It's 3 stories of candy novelties. So they sell a lot of candy novelties. One of them is this guy right here, the world's largest gummy worm.
Is that what that is? Okay.
That is a gummy worm. It weighs 3 pounds and it retails for $29.99.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
So
is this their website image, James?
Yeah. I just pulled this off of the Sugar website.
All right.
So for context, the world's largest gummy worm weighs 3 pounds. They also sell the giant gummy bear. So your challenge, how much does the giant gummy bear weigh? And Anne, we'll go with you first since you're our guest.
Okay, can you repeat how much the gummy worm weighed again? Just
right. And unfortunately, we don't have them side by side. That's what you really need. The gummy worm is 3 pounds.
Okay.
3 pounds. So what do you think the giant gummy bear weighs?
I mean, I'm going to guess it's more dense. So I'm going to say like 8 pounds.
8 pounds. All right, Ebere, what do you think?
I think I might go. I'm literally thinking about it as you're talking. Like, gummy worms are usually bigger than gummy bears, right? So I would imagine that this would be smaller than the gummy worm. So I'm going to say 2.5 pounds.
Okay, so we had 8, we have 2.5. The actual answer is 5 pounds.
Oh wow.
Oh.
5, 6, 7, 8, 2. So 2, 3, 4, 5. You're both pretty close. You're both about equally far apart. I'll tell you what. Both of you can get a point for that one. So Ebere, where are we at? Who's our winner of this week's retail challenge?
We both have 4 points, so it looks like we both won.
Oh my gosh, I feel like we need a
tiebreaker?
a tiebreaker, but I don't have anything.
I feel like Ebere's like gummy worm to bear ratio logic should give him the up on this one, because I was pulling it out of the air. I had no idea on that one. So Ebere, I'll happily concede to you on this one.
Oh, wow.
For your expertise in the gummy industry.
You didn't even have to, but I'll take it.
Well, I'll tell you guys what. because I'm the quiz master and Anne is our guest, I'm going to give her another 1,000,000 points.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Anne, you are our winner.
Thanks.
Oh, did I
go.
mention that the retail challenge is totally made up and meaningless? Oh, I forgot to say that.
It's all right. It's all right. I'll
Um,
hold it here. I'll put it on my LinkedIn profile as one of my accomplishments.
Retail challenge winner.
So
Yes.
as we've been playing, we've also had folks on LinkedIn playing along. One, Sonia got the bonefish grill.
Nice.
Good job. And Noel Kennedy, he's the one that knew that gummy bear weighed 5 pounds.
How do you know
And he's like, boom. All right.
Yeah. No, I don't want to know how you know the answer.
I was about to say.
One. Yeah. But congratulations.
I mean, you Google it. There's a lot on the internet on that sucker. Like I bet there's some good YouTube videos. I wonder how many calories a 5-pound gummy bear is. That's got to be accidentally insane.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Anne, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
And before we say goodbye, one last time, where can folks see or hear Omni Talk?
You can find us at omnitalk.blog, or you can find the OmniTalk Retail Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Awesome, Anne. Thank you so much. And
Thanks,
I'll see you later. I'll see you later today because I'm going to be on Omni Talk today.
Yes, I love it. I can't wait. Thanks so much, you guys. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Anne.
All right. Bye-bye. So Ebere, I just want to let you know the newest episode of the Where We Buy podcast, that's our audio podcast where we do in-depth interviews, is coming out later today. I'm really happy with this one. This is an interview with Kevin Grayson of STX Films. They're bless you. They're a movie studio, and they do they're a mid-major, so they don't do like Marvel movies, but they have stars. So they've got movies like The Gift that starred I'm totally blanking. Jason Bateman.
Sure.
They've got movies with J-Lo. They've got at least one of those Blumhouse horror movies. You're a big horror movie fan, right? I kid.
I was about to say.
I kid.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about what's the future of movie theaters. It's great. Go to wherewebuy.show or search for Where We Buy on whatever podcast app it is that you like to use.
Absolutely. And also be sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube and click on the bell icon so that you're notified when new shows come out.
And if you're on LinkedIn, you've got to follow JLL Retail on LinkedIn. That's how you're going to get notified on LinkedIn. Whenever we go live every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Or you can get to us by going to everythingweknow.show. Ebere, I got to ask you, what else do you know about retail?
James, now I have to tell you next week.